morning, Central Texas. Welcome to KISS Community Connections, 103.1 KISS FM. I'm Phyllis Jones, your host. And guess what? I'm also the guest. Isn't that really nice? You get to listen to me for a whole hour of information. You know, October's coming up real quick. I know this is still September, but October's coming up, and also still in September, some events are coming up. So we'll talk about those first. September 30th, there's going to be a domestic violence workshop. It's going to be like a forum. It's not an organization, but it's going to be, like I said, September 30th. It's going to be at Glendora's, and it's going to start in the evening. And I'll have more information about it next Saturday, because the lady who's holding it will be there and be here to talk about it. But I wanted to give you heads up about it. And even though, you might not be a victim of domestic violence, we'll still need to know everything about it, because if someone is that we need to learn the right things to say. We need to learn that saying, just leave, is not the answer. We need to help people prepare an action to leave. And we also need to know and remember that it takes 5 to 7 times for the abuse victim to leave before they actually leave. The 5 to 7 times is when they go back, because you remember they've been brainwashed into an idealistic world of, you only have me, you have no one else, you can't do anything, you're not worth anything, and all those other things that we hear about it. So even though you're not a victim, you might not be a victim of domestic violence, it still surrounds us and it surrounds our community. So it does actually make us extended victims, because the offset of whatever it is falls back onto your community for support. And like I said, we also need to be smart about it, because if someone we know or suspect is happening, then we need to know what to do. And just to give you, for instance, a couple of years ago, a coworker of mine, every now and then she came in with, arm hurt, back hurt, different things hurting. She fell numerous times, according to, her, when she would come in and said, whatever hurts her or bruises she had on her, she always fell. She always fell. And then, the famous, I ran into a door, and after a while, I'm like, okay, you know what? This is happening a little bit too much. So I didn't say anything to her, because I know her. But what I did was I started, like bringing things in during lunch to read, and sliding her one too, So I used to make sure that I was reading things about domestic violence, and I would always slide her a card, slide her a pamphlet, slide her a little booklet, just sharing what I was reading. But in my way, it was more than what I was reading. It was the fact that I was giving her information that she needed to have, just in case she needed to make a move or call somebody, So just like I said, I made sure she got every piece of information, and her information always had more than mine, meaning I would write phone numbers on hers of people to contact. And I used to write steps of how to leave and take everything with you on hers that she assumed was on mine also, but it wasn't. It was just on hers. And she got hurt really bad one day, and she blamed it on something else. But I've learned since then she's left. She's left her abusive situation she was in. And I also found out she did the steps that I had listed in the pamphlets that I had accidentally on purpose slid her while we were having lunch or just talking, hey, what you do this weekend? So those are the things that we need to learn to do. And we as women, we know how to slip each other information. We know this. We know this all too well. We spend too much time doing it. We've mastered that. So we need to continue that. And I know what I'm saying is we're making our purses bigger and bigger, because you're carrying a little more information. But you know what? This is the world we live in. And also we have smartphones. I had notes on my phone, so I thought my phone probably would have shut down and said, don't add no more notes to me. But this is the world we live in, and we must always be able to have the information to help someone else in need in our community. Because like I said, we always preach it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it takes a village to protect a village. It takes a village to save a village. And the only way you can do that is to be armed with information. And I'm not saying you need to be the expert in the information, but you need to have enough to lead someone to somebody else. You might say, hey, listen, I don't know anything about domestic violence. But here's a number of somebody you can call. So you've just helped. You've actually just helped. You might say, I don't know about it, but this is a shelter in Killeen, and we do have a domestic violence shelter in Killeen. You might say, this is the center you need to call. These are the people you need to call. That's help. That's more than just, girl, just get out. That doesn't work. Doesn't work, because you got to remember, you're telling her to get out of a situation that she's been brainwashed to be in. Much like you telling your kid, first day of school, here you are, passing you through these people that you don't know, that I don't really know, in a room with kids that I don't know, you don't know, none of us know, and I expect you to be good in there. Well, it doesn't always work that way, because your kid's going to be screaming and hollering, not screaming and hollering because they don't like where they're going. You're sending them to the unknown, and they think you're crazy. So, which is the same thing as domestic violence. She's been in the situation, he or she's been in the situation for so long, you telling them to just get out, and they're going to be looking at you like, get out to what? To where? And how do I pick up the pieces? So you're sending them to a nightmare zone, and we're not thinking about it. So I'm just saying that we need to take the time to find out more about it. And now we're going to go on to our disaster that we have in the hurricane. A lot of us are watching what's going on silently and wondering what can we do, and if we can do anything. And yes, you can. And some people are actually doing things. They're taking clothes to different places. But we keep hearing on the news, and we keep hearing on Facebook, and you keep hearing everywhere that there are a lot of people not being reached. Well, I'm going to tell you, you're right. There are. There are the 29 counties in Texas that were declared a disaster due to hurricane. There are some counties that have not been helped. There are some cities that have not been helped. But I'm going to give you some of the reasons why. You know, Red Cross or FEMA, or nobody can set up a shelter actually, in anybody's city just because you want to. You have to get approval to set up a shelter. And you have to get approval to for FEMA and Red Cross to come in. They just can't walk in your door and say, we're here. They can't do that. There are rules and guidelines that they must follow. And first, they must ask. So in a lot of these counties, FEMA, Red Cross is being turned down. You can't come. And with that, there's no way for them to reach the people they need to reach. There's some churches, and I won't call the cities out, but there's some churches in some of those other counties, and it's not Houston, where the church couldn't be a center, a shelter. There are. So what people have done, since there's one church in one city, and like I said, if you look at my Facebook page or follow me, you know what city I'm talking about, where there's one church, and he's became the hub of information. So his church is where everybody's been going to drop off, food, supplies, and everything they need, because the people that lived in that town, because that total town is gone, they're living in Lake Charles, Louisiana. So they're coming back and forth every day to get information from him, and they're getting food, clothes, whatever they need, they're getting from him. So a lot of organizations and groups are feeding into that church. They're giving him information to give to them, since it's not going right the other way around. What can we do about it? We need to make some phone calls. We need to find out why these cities are doing this. They're doing this and nobody's saying anything. Now, you have some groups that are saying anything. You have Texas State NAACP who's doing something. You also have the Texas State LULAC who's voicing some strong opinions on what's going on, which is great, which is good. But we need to also do a part two by calling, check on, see if all 29 counties, it won't take us long to do that. See if they are doing something. Forget Houston County, because Houston is doing a lot of things going on there, but check to see if some of these counties are doing things for their people. See if they're okay. And if they're not okay, ask why. I mean, we've heard about the counties and the cities we know where people say no one's there, no one's helping them. And it's because their city and their county is not allowing anyone to come in to help. So first, before we blast places and say no one's helping these people, let's find out why they're not helping the people in these certain areas. And to give you some updated information, FEMA has trailers where they set up the trailers in the areas of emergency where people can, stay in just in case. But guess what? Our lovely government, and I'll say our lovely government this year, decided to sell some of the trailers that FEMA gave away, not gave away, but was set up for people to live in. So over a 2-day period, more than 100 2017 modeled Federal Emergency Management Agency trailers were sold in 2 days. They were also sold 2 days before the Category 4 hurricane hit. Now, listen to me real well. Our government sold over 100 trailers 2 days before the hurricane hit. Now, I think we knew the hurricane was going to hit more than 2 days prior to. Correct? Yes, it was. But our government decided to do what they did. So we see how much our government is loving us right now. Now, in the affected areas, you have over 79,000 homes that are affected by the hurricanes. So yes, FEMA does have some trailers left, and they are succeeding in getting them placed in areas that they can. But let's remember, you still have cities and counties that will not let them in. If they're not in, if they can't come in, they can't do anything. But what can we do? And like I said, we can see if those cities are the ones that are affected, and we can also do something about it. You know, and along with the disaster we're going on, and a couple of things we're going on, we always seem to make a mistake. Yes, we have 29 counties affected, and right now in Florida and Atlanta and a couple other places, we have other places that are affected by our tragic storms we've been having, hurricanes and these torrential rains and everything affected. You know, we always, and I say I start with Houston, everybody had one mindset. One, let's get up all the things we have. Let's get the water, the first days. Let's get it all down there to these people all at once. We made one concentrated effort of everybody doing that. Correct? Yes, we did. Was that right? Yes, it was. But was it also wrong? Yes. By us getting everybody together to do one concerted thing of making sure we're getting supplies in there, we forgot how to divide. What I mean divide is if you're going to focus on this, then another group needs to focus on that. If we're focusing on food, water, and getting close, someone else needs to focus on the other side. And what I mean by the other side is this. While everybody was bringing clothes and food and water and everything to these areas and bring cleaning supplies, guess what happened? Well, a couple of these cities, as we heard in Texas, were totally destroyed. Totally destroyed. So guess what's happened? While we were delivering all those things, construction companies came in and bought all the land. All of the land. They just bought it because we weren't paying attention to that. See, we were doing a one-mind focused thing. Let's get the food out there. Let's get them this. Let's get them that. And like I said, I'm not saying that's important. It is very important. But no one sat down and built a strategy of, hey, listen, what else needs to be done? Well, what needed to be done is to secure the land and the property that those people had. And I'm not going to say had, because while FEMA and Red Cross weren't allowed in, a construction company was allowed to come in, and they bought up all the land. They bought it all. All the land that was deemed a disaster, they bought it. So not only are these people displaced now and finding out new ways to new places to live and what they need to do, they have nothing to go back to because they don't own anything. Their houses that they'll file an insurance claim and they'll get the insurance money for their house and they'll be able to move someplace else, but that's not it. That isn't it. That means the city they once called home won't be their home anymore. That means that everything that they thought they had, is gone. That means that the house that they were buying that's sitting wherever it's sitting, the land is not there anymore. The house is gone, but also the memories of where you were. You want to go back and rebuild, where you were. Well, they won't be able to do that because we use a one-mind train of thought. We did not think about divide and conquer. And when things like this happen, those are some of the things we need to remember. We need to remember, everybody don't focus on one thing. We lose. We lose, and the people we're helping lose. We do, because you know what? Those very people that we're feeding right now, that live in some of those cities that a construction company came and bought up, they're going to be looking at us again. Okay, so now what you're going to do? They're going to be looking at us. So what are we going to do now? And what are we going to do? Walk away with our hands in the air and say, I don't know? Is that what we're going to do? Are we going to try to find a solution to the problem? Are we going to see that this has affected them, so we need to build plan 2 and plan 3? Because plan 1 was to get them food and everything they needed to until the disaster is over. But now we see that they not only survived the hurricane disaster, they're going to have to survive another disaster. It's a disaster doesn't mean you're not ever going back home. Not to where you were. Not to the place you had. And maybe not even to the city. Because the construction company bought up all the land that's of a disaster. So we know that what you had is gone. We know the city that you entrusted to support you, not financially support you, but to support your living there and being there, that's gone. That's gone. They sold you out. They sold it out. So what are we going to do? Now that we're helping them, and we said we're going to help them to the end, what's our plan 2? Because remember, plan 1A, I'll put it this way, was to get them what they needed right now, immediately. So what's plan 2A? We can't just leave them and say, walk away and go, you know what? I gave you some food, clothes, first. I gave you everything we need. I don't have anything else. So have we actually helped them? No. Yes and no. In a small way, yes, we have, as far as giving them immediate needs. In a big way, as to where do they go back to, we haven't. So what I'm saying is this is when a disaster happens, this lesson should be learned. Don't all say we need to all combine forces and do one thing. Let's say we all need to combine forces, sit down and talk and build a strategy. And the strategy should be 1, doing what we did. Strategy 2 needs to be how we're going to help on the other end. We got to be mindful of that. Very mindful of that. And I'll say in some parts of Houston, we had people, had centers and had shelters, and they were offering help. But it's two organizations, they sat back and they go, okay, you're feeding them and you're clothing them and you're giving them a warm place to sleep. So you had another group that went back and go, okay, we're going to start a cleanup effort. So what they did was they had plan 1A, you in the shelter, you over there. Plan 2A, I'll say, was they stepped out and got another group of people together with an organization, formed as one, and they went out to clean up those apartments and those houses to make sure they're livable again, and and also to see if they'll ever be livable again. Because as we know, after this water in your house flooding, mold sets in real fast because the heat comes back. So mold sets in real fast, and as we know, once the spores and everything all over in the wall and underneath everything, it's probably done, because you can't just wipe mold away with vinegar and bleach. You can't do that, so the structure is damaged. Also, you have another group that's looking at the environmental part, and you've got to remember the environmental part is very strong, because when they let the dams go, every 2 hours, remember they let the dams go. That's water that water wasn't sent through a water plant to make sure it's okay. People found fish in their houses when they were cleaning out houses where, fish were in, and they were living, but they were swimming around in your house because, hey, this is a new place, the dam let go, that's where they were living. So you end up with bugs that you've never seen before. You end up with water life in your house that you've never seen before. You end up with a bunch of mess in your house that shouldn't be in there, never seen before. So the environmental health problems are another thing that we need to bring up and talk about, because guess what? They're there. They're going to hit you. Your house could be clean of water, all clean of water, all clean of the infestation of whatever the heck was in there, but it's still there. It's still there. Because it's seeped in, so it's still there. So along with the food and the clothes in your apartment or your house being clean, now you got the environmental issue. Because you've got to remember, like I said, the water in the dams wasn't clean water. It wasn't filtered. It wasn't taken care of. It was just water, and when they released that, it came straight into your house, straight into everybody's house. So we need to worry about their environmental health, which is a long study. It takes a while, because it might not hit them. Let's say you're back in your house after basically the water and the river and the lake and everything else being in your house. You're back in your house, you're breathing it, Yeah, you're breathing it. You're inhaling it every day and all day. Your children could be in danger because remember, they're little people. Their immune systems, and a baby hasn't even been built yet. You know, that's why people used to do can't see a child for the first 6 weeks of life. But children's immune system is not as strong as ours, and you have some adults whose immune system aren't strong. So we need to also worry about the long-term effect of it. So we need to do an environmental study. Somebody needs to do it. And I know that's step 3 I've given everybody. But somebody needs to do that, because we can't keep just taking food, water, and only focusing on that and think that we're fixing the problem, because we're not. You know, and also now we see that the government, our own government, 2 days before, just 2, not 1 day, 2 days before the hurricane, they start selling FEMA trailers, just selling them. You know, over a 2-day period, they sold some of the trailers. You know, FEMA still has some left, and they will be placing some of them. And also, FEMA has ordered some more new trailers recently because they found out theirs was sold. So they're ordering some 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom trailers to be built. The cost is around $40,000, and they have it. But they're going to do that to replace, not all of them, but they're going to replace some of them. You know, FEMA has already deployed 144,000 trailers, you know, for the hurricane. But they are still short trailers because we have more families than that, and our disasters keep coming and coming and coming and coming and coming. So hope that gets done. But the other problem with that is, remember, the cities and towns that have said FEMA can't come, neither can the trailers. Just remember that. They're going to have trailers. FEMA will have some trailers set up, and they still have a few left, and they're getting some built. But guess what? The other problem will be, like I said, you have the cities and towns who won't let them in. Not letting them in means they can't get to the people. And if they can't get to the people, naturally, number 1, number 2, number 3, 4, 5, and forever, they get no help. They get no services. They can't get their FEMA money that they're supposed to have. They can't get it. And the reason they can't get it is because, you know, they're not allowed there in the city to do what they need to do, and in the county to do what they need to do to help the people. So who's supposed to help them in that arena? We don't know. Who's scheduled to help them in that arena? Don't know. But that's when we, people, can stand up that don't live there and actually start asking some questions of why. Some of the groups and organizations that are going to those towns where towns are telling people, nobody's coming here to help us. Where they saying nobody's coming here to help us. Where they saying nobody's coming in to help us. You know, we need to not criticize groups for not helping them, but we need to see exactly why. And the why isn't blaming other groups. The why actually is the fact that it's just not going on because the cities and towns have stopped it. And they've stopped people from helping and stopped people from coming in and doing what they need to do. So let's not blame the organizations. Let's check and see what the city is allowing to come in and happen and work with. Because like I said, we are busy. We do blame everybody else, but we need to go back and check to see what the cities are doing. I'm going to take a break and come right back.